Welcome to your e-learning video for today. You have started solving systems of equations in your Algebra 1 class, and so in our lab today we're just going to practice solving systems of equations by graphing. And so you've got an assignment on My Open Math today. So what I wanted to do is work through just a few examples with you on that so you'd have an idea of what to do. And so remember, to solve a system of equations by graphing, what you're going to do is you are going to graph the lines and they're going to figure out where they cross. And so the first problems that you're doing on My Open Math today, the equations have already been graphed for you. You just have to identify which is the solution to that system of equations. And so remember, the solution to that system of equations is where those lines cross. So which point would you want to select here as the solution to this system of equations? Well, you want where the lines themselves cross. So here was one line, and here's the other line, and so they cross right there at point D, and so you would just identify that point D is the solution to that system of equations, whatever that ordered pair would be. Now, this would be a hard one to come up with that ordered pair because it's not exactly on an intersection point, but probably something like -3.5 and 1.5 would be our solution there. But that's what we're looking for when we're finding this system of equations. Now, not all of them are going to be quite that easy. Some of them you are going to have to graph the lines. And so remember, if you're going to graph the lines on My Open Math, that you want to, well, we'll work through an example here. So let me get one in front of us. You want to first of all make sure that they are in slope-intercept form. And so in this case, they are in slope-intercept form. Y equals 1x minus 1, y equals -1x plus 3. And then you also want to make sure, if you've got choices down here, that you click on the one that's going to graph the straight line. So if we were going to graph y equals 1x minus 1, where would you start on the graph? Okay, you would start at the y-intercept of -1, and then what would you use for your slope? Well, you would go up 1 and to the right 1, and so that would be the line y equals 1x minus 1. Okay, now we want to graph the other line. And so to graph the other line here, where would we start? Okay, we'd want to start at +3, and then what would we do to graph a slope of -1? You would go down 1 and over 1. So there's our two lines now. We want to identify, in this box, we want to identify that intersection point. And so what would the intersection point be of those two lines? Okay, remember, you always write the x first and the y second. Also make sure you put parentheses around your answer because it is an ordered pair. And so our answer here would be 2, 1. And hopefully when we hit submit there, it's going to tell us that we got the right answer. And how about that? We did. Now, like I said, it's fairly easy to graph those lines when they're in slope-intercept form, but remember, if they are not in slope-intercept form, the first thing you need to do is to rearrange those equations so that they are. And so here is another example where they are not in slope-intercept form yet. So first thing we want to do is rearrange these equations into slope-intercept form. So what would the first equation be if you rearrange it into slope-intercept form? Okay, so when that first one gets changed, all we have to do is move the 2x over, and so it's just going to be y is equal to 2x minus 1. So let's go ahead and graph that line. So if the equation is y equals 2x minus 1, you would start at -1, and then for 2x, you would go up 2 and over 1. And so that would be the point for y equals 2x minus 1. Okay, now we want to rearrange that other equation. Okay, what's the other equation going to be when we rearrange it? Okay, you should end up, when you move the 3x over, it becomes a +3x, and then you want to divide by 6. And so when we do, we get y equals 1/2 x plus 2 as our equation. So now we want to graph that. So as we go to graph that equation, we are going to start at +2. Let me get that back here for us. We're going to start at +2, and then for a slope of 1/2, we go up 1 and over 2. And so when we look at it, those two lines intersect right there at that point, 2, 3. And so in this box, we want to make sure that you go back and type in the ordered pair 2, 3 for that answer. And hopefully when we hit submit, it's going to tell us that we've got the right answer. Oh, my lines were a little bit off there. And so that's why it's only giving me partial credit for that. But hopefully you'll just be a little bit more exact when you draw your lines, and so that they intersect, or that they're going straight like they're supposed to be going. All right, so that's what you're doing on your lab assignment today, is just finding some intersection points, graphing those intersection points, or graphing the lines and finding the intersection points to solve these systems of equations. Remember, the point that we found here, 2, 3, we know that's a system of equations, just like we did the other day in lab, because if we replace the 2 with an x, or replace the x with a 2 and the y with a 3, we get a -1. And also in the second equation, when we replace the x with a 2 and the y with a 3, we get a positive 12. So that's how we know that 2, 3 is the correct answer on these problems. All right, so good luck with your assignment today. If you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email. Let me know through Canvas Messenger, and I will try to help you out. But as far as what you're doing today, that's all there is. So good luck.